All right, welcome to Help Desk with Joe. Sorry, I stumbled a little bit right off the bat. But as always, I have with me Joe. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Dave. Glad to be here for another episode.
Yeah, and again, last week you covered a lot of good topics. We had great response from that. And this week you're up in the game with some new topics. And tell us a little bit about what we're going to talk about.
Okay, we're going to change things up a little today on this episode, and actually I'm going to put your feet to the fire and have you do the topic for discussion today. And that is going to be about Life 360, but first, before we get to that, we're going to cover this week's news topics, and this week's topics include the Sprint T-Mobile merger, with the latest news on that, and malware hitting Macs.
Yep, and you talked a little bit about that merger last week. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about it. And again, if you didn't catch it last week, we were talking about the coronavirus and how that affects some stuff and some of the merger news. And this will be a follow-up on that merger news.
Yeah,
a little more in depth, I guess.
Well, there's actually been new developments since last week, and as of earlier this week, the U.S. mobile landscape is getting ready to change greatly. The federal judges have approved a $26 billion deal between T-Mobile and Sprint. And that's actually going to allow T-Mobile and Sprint to merge to change from 4 major cell phone providers to 3.
Nice.
Well,
wait a minute. Is that nice?
Well, here's the issue. Critics of the deal, including attorney generals from a dozen states, have expressed concerns that the deal would diminish a competitive market.
Yeah, it's almost like the too big to fail deal all over again,
right,
which we know wreaked havoc in the housing market and everything else.
Right. But as a result, when all this started, T-Mobile and Sprint actually owned a lot of track phone type of providers, and Boost Mobile being one of them. And actually, Boost, part of the deal was they was actually going to sell Boost out to Dish Network, so Dish Network could actually get into the cell phone game. So there would still be 4 competitors, and there's still a lot of states that actually filed lawsuit against this. And at the beginning, that they was stating that this was going to kill the competitive market.
Yep.
So the judges actually said, no, look, with T-Mobile's track record, T-Mobile itself is been known to shake up the game per se, and their biggest shakeup was a couple years ago when a lot of mostly Verizon, AT&T was on this pigeon toe hold of taking everybody's unlimited data away, and pigeon toe hold, you was getting a data cap, and if you went over your cap, you was getting charged outrageous fees. T-Mobile came in one day and said, hey, let's do this for X amount of dollars a month. You get unlimited data, you get hotspots, you get you basically get at the time a $200 plan for around $75.
Right.
And literally overnight, AT&T and Verizon jumped in and goes, oh yeah, by the way, we can do that too.
Yeah, start shifting their policies to react to that. Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting turn in the next upcoming weeks and months as they finally start getting everything to fall into place. So as a Sprint customer myself, I'm excited, but I'm a little cautious from the standpoint their current CEO, they are working on replacing him, and he was the one that actually spearheaded a lot of these changes that shook up the market. So
he had the vision, and now he may not be there to see the follow through.
Right. So I'm a little anxious on that part of it, but as a Sprint customer, I'm anxious to see the positive side of it. Is this will actually help them expand the 5G connection.
Right.
So that's actually going to be a big game changer as far as high-speed internet goes in a lot of rural areas, including here in Spencer.
Yeah, and that might help. I'm slightly skeptical just because the lack of marketplace will affect some people.
Right.
If you don't have choices, then you kind of lose. And I don't know if it's a West Virginia thing. I'm sure it's everywhere, but everybody says, "Oh, well, I'm not happy with my price getting high, so I'll just switch," and that keeps that market viable still.
Right.
So if you run out of places to switch to, then the market's going to be driven up by the manufacturers and the companies and not by the consumer.
Right. Well, and, we see that on West Virginia, and, just in the state of West Virginia, our internet options, our telephone options, there's such monopoly in those markets.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you see it there.
Yeah. So, as residents of West Virginia, we've always dealt with the issues and the pain stakes of monopoly. So, we by default have that caution, err on the side of caution of okay, what's going to happen? Yes, what can go wrong, and then what's the worst case scenario if this happens?
Yep. Well, it'll be interesting to see, and that's why you're doing it as news. You mentioned the coronavirus 2 weeks ago.
Last week.
Well, we talked about 2
Okay.
weeks ago.
Okay,
And then
yes.
we aired it on the podcast last week.
Yes.
And I just saw on the news, I was telling you before the show started in our conversation, I saw it on the news Monday that it's affecting, you were talking about the iPhone effect, but it's affecting other goods and services, and then it's affecting our export of our products out of America as well. So it's having a far-reaching effect.
Yeah, it's kind of the ripple.
You knew about it 2 weeks before, so
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Joe's Oracle.
Yeah.
I see a different podcast in your future.
There you go. Yeah, it's funny to think of, something going over in China and the economic effect. It's the ripple effect that it's affecting the United States economically. That's something we never would even have thought about.
Well, and that makes me wonder with this deal if that will have the same ripple effect or the same effect that down the road will be 6 months from now we'll be like, shoot, we saw this coming. You talked about it in your news show, and look what happened.
Right.
Good or bad.
Right.
But you've heard it here first with Joe.
Right. So it's going to be
T-Mobile and Sprint.
Yeah, T-Mobile and Sprint. So it's going to be exciting and anxious at the same time.
Question:
Okay.
How will that affect our local Sprint store? Because we have a local Sprint store.
Right. To the best of my knowledge, none of that's going to change.
Won't change anything.
There's still, when the federal courts actually approved this deal earlier in the week, that actually gives T-Mobile and Sprint leeway to actually go back and renegotiate the deals. So
Right.
a lot of the stuff that was released to the press initially, a lot of that can change. So best case scenario, nothing changes other than our local storefront, instead of having the big Sprint sign on the front,
Right.
may have a big T-Mobile sign.
Gotcha.
I mean, that could literally be just a simple,
Marketing.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then be a lot of changes on the back end. But as far as billing and stuff goes, a best case scenario, our bills stay the same or go cheaper.
Right.
Hopefully, worst case scenario,
Cheaper would be awesome.
right? Worst case scenario, everything the price of everything goes up, and then we're all crying foul as a result.
Yeah. Well, and there's still options here. You can go over to Walmart and get phones there. Charleston, Parkersburg, get
Right.
the other carriers. So.
Right, but what one of the federal judges said, to the states that are still wanting to threaten to appeal the judgment of, based on T-Mobile's track records, they are more customer oriented than the other competitors.
Right.
So, based on their track record alone, he sees nothing but good
Positives
out of this.
They're hungry for business. They're one of the underdogs. So,
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this actually bumps him up to being the third top competitor. So why not keep feeding the train and keep it, maybe possibly jump them up into number 2 or number 1 position.
Feed them from the bottom up and let them get competitive.
Right.
Yeah, I like that philosophy. All right. So what's next on your news slate?
Okay, so the last story of the day is Macintosh computers are the malware attacks are outpacing Windows PCs for the first time. Yes. And this is always, and
That's never been an issue, it doesn't seem like, because a big selling point, at least from my knowledge, I'm a PC guy,
Right.
so I've never worried about it, but I know talking to you in the past that that was one of the pros.
right.
Apple doesn't have those issues.
Right, and Apple for years has always hung their hat on of we don't get attacked, we don't have viruses, we don't have malware.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that's true. And the reason being is the major quality control. And this is an issue you and I was talking about before the show of the new app, the new patch turned up app that you're releasing out to iPhone and Android of all the hoops that Apple makes you jump through. And and the reason they make you do that is because they are so strict on quality control.
Yep.
So that's why it's harder for them to be attacked and all that, because they're always on top of things. And always in years past, the reason Macs never saw attacks and hacks and all that was because they had owned such a small market share that it wasn't worth the hacker's time.
Right.
When 85% of the market is Windows based, and the rest is Macs and Linux and anything else, well, I'm going to go where the fish are. I'm not going to go over here and play in this. But that's actually starting to change.
Interesting.
Researchers with the cybersecurity company Malwarebytes analyzed last year's data on cyber attacks targeting customers and found that malware attacks and other malicious activity targeting Macs had significantly risen over the past year. According to their report, State of Malware, 2019 saw an increase of attacks targeting Macs compared with the previous year. In 2019, the average number of detections per Mac was 11 compared to 4.8 in 2018.
Wow. That's a
Yes.
huge difference.
And and this is actually more than what Windows saw last year. Windows saw an average of 5.8 detections over that same 12-month period. Now the severeness of these attacks aren't anywhere near Windows. These are more adware, little pop-ups, just nonsense, pains. But compared to the Windows side, the Windows always catches on the chin with all the ransomware and all that. So the stuff isn't serious, but that's can always make things worse. If there's more people hammering on that, there's always a potential of actually getting through.
Once the door opens, Katie bar the door.
Right.
So I realized I just created the radio mistake number 1 for rookies. Don't nod your head, actually say something. Because as you were reading it, I'm like, yeah. But I'm nodding my head, and I realized you looked at me and no sound came out. So you're the only person that got the benefit of my yes. That's interesting facts, Joe. I agree.
Right.
But so back it up 10 seconds, and this is me agreeing. Yeah, those are crazy statistics to start to look at and to see how that's going to unfold. I assume, is it really that? Is the door starting to open and more people flood in, or do you just think it's a little bump that they're seeing? Well, do you think it's long-term, I guess?
Well, I think it's a long-term deal because there's so many people converting over to Mac, and Mac owns such a bigger market share than ever before.
So as their market share increases, they'll see more of this just automatically?
Right, and it's one of those, as more people move over to Macs, their market share increases, which means there's a bigger pool to play in.
Yeah.
So there's more of a possibility of attackers trying to hammer it, try to beat and bang on it and try to find their way in.
Right.
But if Apple continues their top quality and measures a counter and all that, there's, any system is vulnerable.
Right.
That goes without saying, but based on Apple's track record, if they stay on course, it should be okay.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, higher quality, more stance towards protection across the board, and everything they do will make it harder.
Right.
But boy, it seems like hackers are pretty savvy. So
when it's almost
it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Right. When it's almost 2-to-1, when going after Macs versus PC, that it's really eye opening.
Yeah.
Even though the severity of the attacks isn't nothing major, but
there's a chink in the armor.
Exactly. When the dam breaks, it always starts with a leak.
There you go. Well, and in your opinion, and again, for those that don't know, you're in the tech world. You do this as a business here out of Spencer, West Virginia. It's your livelihood. You do both personal and commercial. Mm-hmm. Is this something that, with your opinion, because my opinion in technology is nil, is this something that you think people will attack specifically just because Apple's never really been a target, and that'll kind of be like the new game that hackers will play? Hey, Apple's got a chink in their armor, let's hit them hard.
Well,
or do you think it's just so hard to do that most people won't waste their time either way?
Well, there will always be hackers out there to try to be the first one to make a big attack on Apple so they can hang their hat on that. But where most hackers go is fast money.
Yeah.
So, and if there's a possibility of making $10,000 on this Mac hack versus $300,000 on Windows, you're always they're always going to go for the $300,000.
Okay.
And that's the thing. A majority of them always go where the money is.
Yep. Oh yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, that's why we ask you the hard questions.
Right.
You can give good answers. Okay. Well, tech news.
Okay.
Anything else?
That pretty much covers this week's topics.
All right. Well, we'll see how Joe the Oracle does here in 4 or 5 months, or maybe 2 weeks, like with the coronavirus.
Right.
A couple weeks, we'll see the T-Mobile and Sprint. See how that shakes down, and then we'll see if we get more attacks on in the Apple.
Right, and
world.
Right, and
Mac world.
Right, and since I'm a Sprint customer, I can be able to
first-hand experience.
Have first-hand experience on what happens.
If you come back next week all flustered and your bill went up, we'll know what happened.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Well, on to the next topic. What's the main topic for today?
Okay, so the main topic we're going to talk about today, and Dave, this is actually going to be yours and Kel's expertise.
Yeah, we'll bring Kel in on this.
Yes, it's an app. It's called Life 360, and Dave, if you want to go ahead and give us a general overview, I have the plans and what each plan covers.
You got the technical speak. I'll do the layman's terms here. So Life 360, it's something when Kel started driving. And Kel, how long have you been driving? Are you ready? Are you mic'd up? So if people aren't aware, Kel's behind the computers over here doing the producing. You got your mic turned on? You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So Kel, how long have you been driving?
6 months.
6 months. So September, he got his license. He's been driving. Of course, that's for a parent. That's a very scary thing to have a new driver, and to worry about those type issues. So when Cheryl and I started talking about it, one of the things we wanted was a way we could utilize our phones and be able to keep track of him, if he was safe or not, safety being paramount. And Life 360 was the app that one of our friends had chosen to keep track of their Yahoo. And so we got Life 360 on our phones. So basically, it's an app that tracks him at all times, and then it also shows specifically for cars. It'll show his speed when he's moving, like how many miles per hour he's doing. It'll do live tracking, like you can track him up to the minute, and then it'll also show his route that he's done for the day. So if he's out running around and sneaks in an extra stop outside of his itinerary that he gave us, it'll show on his phone.
Nice.
So it's one of those things we use just to see where he's at, what speed he's traveling. It shows his highest speed. It doesn't show the lowest speed. I guess there's no need for that, but it does show the highest speed for the day and so forth. And then again, it tracks his route. So that's the extent of how I know how to use it.
Okay.
But you're my technological guy, so I'm sure you could tell me 10 other ways to use it better. But that's just my minimalist. This is what I use it for and how we utilize it.
Right. Okay. So starting out, so you said it's an app on the phone. Is there like a little dongle that plugs into the data port on the computer, or in the vehicle, or is it just strictly an app on the phone?
It's an app on his phone, so
Okay.
it stays with his phone, and in order for it to work, he has to have his GPS turned on.
Okay. So now, when he gets in the vehicle, does he have to actually launch the app manually, or does it automatically?
It automatically tracks him at all
Okay.
times. Like I know when he's at school. Like right now, I pull it up, and I pulled it up here beforehand, and you can see. I don't know if is it close enough to the camera.
Let me see this.
Get it up here. Let Kel do it. But you can see that it has a text part at the bottom. It has a map, and it has his little picture from Google, and then it shows his text at the bottom. Says Kale's at work.
Okay.
And then it also shows it up on the map. So he's trying to get it there where everybody can see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
Okay. So and then as he moves, his little icon moves, and it shows where he's at and so forth.
Okay. So it's basically just an app on his phone. Now, how well, being in rural West Virginia, this is always a big one. Kale, have you tried it in areas that has no cell phone signal? And Dave, from your standpoint, are you able to track him in those areas?
Because it uses a GPS.
Okay.
And it stays regardless of the cell phone signal. It works off of satellites.
Okay.
So, for instance, Kale, I'm going to let you hold this one up there. He goes out and checks on the chickens out Lick Fork, which has very bad cell phone service.
Right.
But you can see this is the map showing his daily driving. It shows where he went. It pinpoints it, puts little dots where it locates him to make sure. And you can see his trail. So it picks him up even when he goes out of service out Lick Fork out at our Sunnybank Farm.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so before we get into plans here, they offer 3 different plans. Kale, I'm going to ask you for your input from being a new driver, a student driver, and with all the bells and whistles it has. From your standpoint, what do you like and don't like? Do you feel safe knowing that your parents can keep an eye on you, or do you feel like they're invading your space and you can't go out and you can't go out and hang out with your buddies because mom and dad's always literally virtually right there beside you?
It doesn't bother me that much because I don't have much to do other than go to school, go to work, and then go home. So it doesn't bother me, but it does make me feel good that they know what I'm doing. So
Okay.
Yeah, and we talked about
Like
that. It's a way that we don't have to text him and say, "Hey, where are you at?"
Right.
We can just pull that up real quick and say, "Okay, he's halfway home," and if he's driving, that way there's no pressure for him to have to text or worry about it. We can just see where he's at. Now, of course, that's because he's doing good stuff. So what he's going to show you now is his map. Like you can see today, his top speed was 49 miles an hour. It said where he went and so forth. So get a little picture of that.
So now, just for testing purposes, Kale, when you guys first set this up, Kale, did you or Dave actually do a speed test? Go above the speed limit just a mile or two just to see what would happen? If Kale goes over the posted speed limit, does it automatically send you a notification like a tattle, or do you just have to go back and look at the reports manually to find out if he stayed within the limits or not?
I don't know that much about it now. Like I can go back through and get his weekly summary, which I'm looking at now, and it shows his top speed, and it has a crash detection. It has one event. where he stopped. Like today's it said at Roane County High School, top speed 33 miles an hour. Or sorry, that was yesterday. And then, today 5-mile drive. He's at work, no crash detection. So I don't know if it would tell on him if he was speeding, or there might be a way to do it. But again, I'm minimalist with it, so.
Kel, you're too safe of a driver is what he's saying.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, he bought himself a Jeep with some help, and it's a 4-cylinder 5-speed Jeep. So top speed, you hit 60 with that bad boy, parts are going to start falling off.
Right.
So we were happy about that. The top speed's not really an option with the Jeep. So
Right.
Now he'll drive to Ripley and Rockport occasionally, and you can see he'll get up to 55, 58 here and there. But it doesn't give me any warnings of him speeding. But again, I don't know that he could.
You haven't equipped him with that capability.
Yeah. He hadn't been at that route yet.
Right.
So it's good for that.
Perfect. So Life 360, they actually offer 3 different plans. Now, keep in mind, this is just a review. Life 360 does not sponsor this show, so we're just being completely upfront with this. But on their website, they offer 3 plans, and the base plan, which is a free plan, it actually does location sharing, so it does what Dave said. Whenever Kel goes, from point A to point B, it tracks him on his entire trip. It actually also does battery monitoring, and in case you're wondering what that is,
yes, it does that automatically. It'll tell me how much battery's in his phone.
Yeah, when I first read that, I thought that's where I thought it was a dongle. I thought it was a piece and a device to actually plug into the vehicle to actually monitor the vehicle's battery, but it actually monitors the cell phone battery of the user. So then you can keep track of, Kel's cell phone battery. So if his battery goes low on his phone, you know why he's not responding to your text message or whatever.
Right, and that's very handy because he has been down to during football season, he would go to some of the stuff after the game that they had at First Baptist Church, fifth quarter, they call it fifth quarter, and his battery would run low from being late, 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, oh shoot, he's only got 8%, so we would know that, which is handy to know.
Good to know. And then it also has location ETA, so it gives you a general idea of how long it's going to take for him to reach his destination. It also shows a history of his driving routes, and then it also has help alert, which is where if he is somewhere and doesn't feel safe, he can actually hit a button and it'll actually contact the emergency contacts. It'll contact you or contact whoever. Yes.
I did not know that. Huh. Okay.
And then they also, their next plan up is called it's called the Plus plan, and it's actually $299 a month, and it has all those features plus crime reports, which based on where we live, I'm not sure how well that would work out, but it will actually in certain areas show you where there's crime going on currently. So if you want to drive around to avoid that, it'll actually give you that capability as well.
So college will look at that option.
Right.
Might come in handy.
And then their top tier plan, which is Driver Protect, is $799 a month, and it has all those features plus crash detection, emergency response, roadside assistance, and driver report.
Oh, nice. I saw on mine it offers me every once in a while that we can do a weekly summary more in depth.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I get enough information from it now, so I'm happy with that.
So which plan are you using currently?
Whatever the base one is.
Okay, so the free one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, free.
Okay.
All right, yeah. I didn't even realize, but yes, we do not pay for it.
Okay, so for your situation, you found just the free alone
it's fine.
Works great. And that's one thing I always recommend my customers is anytime, no matter what product it is, if there's a free plan, I always tell them try the free plan first. Then if you think you need these extra bells and whistles, then go with the paid plan. Yeah. And in majority of the time, the free stuff always does what you're looking for. Yeah. I mean, on rare occasions, the paid plans always, give you those extra bells and whistles you need. But a big majority of the time, no matter what the product, a lot of the free stuff will do exactly what you're needing. Yeah,
and that's something, you've always went through that in the past. What's best going to help people out, and that's sound advice across the board. And I think that's something you've always stuck with when trying to help out people.
And that's what I always find. Well, I always look myself personally, if I can do with it for free, I'm not going to, try to upsell you and say you have to have the top tier. It's always easier to upgrade than it is to downgrade.
Yep. And I think that's something that's important with Help Desk with Joe. Your mantra has always been to help people. Right. And I've talked to some people and you guys talk about all kinds of stuff, but one of the things was we're always trying to help people. So that's a big sell. So keep that in mind. If you need help, call Joe, call Cena, get an idea on these products, because that's one thing I will vouch for. You guys don't try to just upsell people and take their money just because. It's always, hey, what's the best way I can help you? Right. And sometimes it's not selling you anything. It's just help.
Right.
So good. Okay.
Okay, so real quick,
Yeah.
pros and cons.
Pros and cons. All right. Which one you want to start with?
Let's do the pros.
All right. The pros is it's free. I really like that. The other pro is it's very effective for what we use it for. So I only have one driver at the moment, and it makes it really nice. It's quick and easy to spot him. It's easy to manage. I just rolled around through it here thinking of things to talk about and showing the reports and checking out his driving routes. Very easy. I'm not a big techno savvy guy that goes through all of this stuff and has to have all the shiny new stuff. So for me, and when that mindset, very easy to navigate, very easy to use, very easy to see what I want to see, which is he speeding, is he safe, is he moving, and where he's at.
Right.
So good pluses across the board on that. Cons, if he turns his GPS off, then we lose where he's at.
Right.
So it's up to him to manage it, which isn't a big deal. In our household, our hard, fast rule is turn the GPS off, you lose your keys.
Well,
you know.
and personally, from my standpoint, you and I both, we was teenagers at one time, and from the tech guy standpoint, I'm thinking, well, if I don't want mom and dad to know where I'm going, well, I'll just turn the GPS off. I will do something to my phone to make sure that they can't track me.
Right.
And there's ways to do on that very easily, but we're not going to offer.
I was going to say he's listening, so don't throw that out.
That's why we're just doing a general overview here, and that's why you mentioned turning the GPS off. Where there's some other things we can do as well, but I'm not going to offer that.
Yeah, please
freely.
don't. You'll cause panic attacks. All the parents out there saying, "Wait a minute, I got Life 360. I got to rethink this."
Yeah. Kale's looking at me like, "Yeah, we need to talk afterwards."
Well, and that's the good news. I think that's basic common sense and logic parenting. If you don't instill the habits in your kids and you don't have the ability to trust them, they shouldn't be driving anyway.
Right. Well, and the thing of it is believe it or not, even if the parents just keep track of the odometer, you can turn that off, but if your driving record for the day in Life 360 says you drove 3 miles, but your odometer says 20, something's not adding
happening.
up.
Yeah, that's a good point. So good double check for parents. But yeah, so far the only con is that if his phone, and I'm worried about that. Like I said, sometimes he's been at the fifth quarter, which is a wonderful event for teenagers after the Friday night football games.
Absolutely.
But it runs till 11 o'clock. If his phone's running really low, the GPS would be the first thing you'd have to turn off to save power.
Right.
And I know he's been down to like 8-7% before at 11 at night, and I'm like, shoot, okay, hopefully he'll make it home, and we'll be able to track him still, and it's worked fine.
Charger in the vehicle, Kel. You need a charger in the vehicle.
He has one, so that we took away that excuse, and his mom's pretty savvy about stuff like that, so she's got all the angles covered. He's got a charger in his car, and just one of those deals. You get in the car, plug it in if you need to, and then set it off to the side and do your driving.
Yeah, moms are always good about that. Always keeping that one step ahead, just when you think.
Oh yeah, and we have that mom in our family, so it works out well. Now he did end up in a ditch, and it didn't say anything about that, but it did show that he was stopped for a while alongside the road. How long into your driving did the ditch incident happen?
A month and a half.
Yeah, probably 6 weeks in, and he ended up in a ditch on Lick Fork, and luckily his favorite cousin Austin came along to save him. So. And I didn't know anything about the crash report at that point. So I don't know.
It also has the help alerts, so it might be something to look into.
Yeah.
Well,
he had service, so it was, hey, called me. I was at soccer practice, like, I can't help you. Good luck. Hey, this is a good learning experience.
Yeah, life experience.
Get yourself in the ditch, get yourself out.
Right.
So being savvy like he is, he called his cousin Austin, and of course Austin came and helped him. So pulled him right out of the ditch. Made for some good pictures and a good Facebook post.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so that's about the only con is if they personally turn their GPS off, there's nothing the parents can do about it from where we are in this part of the plan.
Right, but like you said, if you have that policy of no GPS, no keys, then that kind of
and I feel like that's a parenting issue,
right?
Not necessarily a tech one, but maybe there's something with the app that overrides that where they can or whatever. I don't know, but that's the only con I see is that if a kid just gets mad, turns the GPS off, and drives wherever for that amount of time until they get back,
right,
you lose track of it.
And then that's when you call me and say, Joe, what of our fail-safe plans?
Joe, do something. Yeah. So all right. So that's it. Yeah. So far it's Life 360, great app. Thrilled to death with it. Love it. I like, like I say, my point is sometimes we felt like he would be driving somewhere, like when he drives to Rockport and's coming back, instead of calling or texting and having that urge for him to drive and try his phone out,
Right.
or mess with his phone, all we got to do is pull up Life 360. Okay, yeah, he's coming through Ripley, driving 35 miles an hour. We know where he is.
Right.
We don't have to ping him.
And actually, Kel, this is just a little safety on your part. It does have a title feature that it will report in the reports that say if you've been on your phone while you're driving.
Yeah, we've paid attention to that. He's got a couple of warnings. So, yeah.
So I didn't know if you know that or not. I'm just trying to help you out.
I was going to say, we haven't told him that. But
okay.
But now he knows, so now he'll know to stay off of it. But we've been waiting to see what his usage would be without us having to tell him.
Well, Dave, I'm sorry for
That's
for
okay. We were going to tell him at some point anyway.
Yeah, when I first got you.
We were going to wait and see if he could figure out how he knew he had been on his phone.
Right.
So, that Easter surprise is no longer there. Now you know.
Oh, no, there's still maybe some...
some more tricks up your sleeve?
Right.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kale. Joe is on the job. He's thrilled.
Yeah, I can tell.
So
if you want to check out the app, it's actually a free app. Their website is life360.com. And again, they are not a sponsor of the show, but we're just doing a completely honest review of their product. And Dave is using it firsthand himself and actually really enjoys it.
I really like it. I would say, what'd you used to do? 5 thumbs up, thumbs down, 5-star rating?
5-star rating is what we used to do.
5-star rating? Okay,
but since it's your review, it's your call.
Ooh, I get to choose.
Yes, you get
I'm
to choose.
going to say definitely thumbs up, and I would say 5 out of 5, just because I've had 0 issues. I can't stress it enough. I'm going to steal a lot of your words here, your jargon. Ease of use and being friendly for a low-tech user, top-notch.
Perfect.
So, yep, that's my take.
So it gets Dave's seal of approval.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Most definitely. If you have any problems, you have any questions, I'll steal your other lines, Joe. Call Joe.
And there you go.
Call Cena. He'll help you out. He has all the technical information here. He did all the research, so I can't claim any of it. I'm just the knucklehead user that, tried it out with my kid.
Well, better test
First-hand
subject.
experience.
There you go.
There you go. All right, well, let's wrap it up with that. You've brought some good news to the table. We've reviewed a product. We've actually changed roles, which is a first.
Yes.
We've done this show a long time, and it's the first time we've actually switched roles.
Right.
So I don't know that I like it because I feel pretty inept with the technological deal
Well, I was
here.
going to say, my job today was actually kind of easy. I was able to put your feet to the fire, and I just had to keep hammering out the questions.
Yeah, well, and you had to do, it's kind of unfair for you because you also had to do the homework for it, and you had to do the background features. So,
Yeah, but that
part
part was
you got out
easy.
a part of it. So.
Right.
Okay. All right, any idea for what next week's going to be?
It's always a surprise.
Surprise.
Yes.
I like it. All right. So going into the next show. So make sure you turn in next week, and we will be back with more technological news here. Help Desk with Joe, as always. Joe, how do people get a hold of you?
Okay, you can give us a call at our office at 304-927-3588. Check out our website at amdigitaltechnologies.com. Check us out on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, at amdigitaltech. And please send us your questions. We would love to answer your questions on the air.
Great point. Comment in our Facebook here. Comment on our SoundCloud. Or anywhere else that you're getting this information and we're listening to this show or watching the show, comment in on what you'd like to see and so forth. Joe's great about it, and I can't say it enough. You guys support all our stuff. You take care of all our office computers. You support this show. You support our live broadcasts, our sports coverage. You and Cena do a lot of work for us here in the background, and I'll say to stay on Cena's good side, she does all the heavy lifting in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so wonderful to have a local business here taking care of all our technology needs.
Well, and if you don't care, Dave, I want to interrupt you
throw it out there.
with the couple of big announcements on the Patch Turned Up side.
Yeah.
What was this post I saw on Facebook earlier today?
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Joe. Yes, we have rolled out our Patch Turned Up app on the Google Play Store.
Yes.
So you can go in and get the app. I'll let Kale hold it up here real quick. See if you can focus.
So what all does this app include?
Well, that's a bad question for me. You click on it, and then you hit the play button, and you can listen to all these shows that roll through. Caitlin and Kale produce it and have scheduled it, but it'll allow you to go through. So we have these shows, the podcast play at, I don't know, every couple hours throughout the day, it fills in itself.
Okay.
And then also music in between, and you've given us 700 songs that the kids are slowly adding into the rotation as they convert them over and upload them into the platform that we use for the radio.
Perfect.
So yeah, as you go in, you can listen to shows, you can listen to music, and you can listen to. We have probably 6 or 7 folks that have done the station ID, and then we're going to start inserting local weather and local news to some extent with the students once we get to that point.
Oh, great!
So
So growing every day.
yeah, and then of course we'll load in sporting events and stuff in our live broadcasts as well. So.
And also, this podcast is actually, you can find it on iTunes, Google
Yeah.
Play, Spotify, everywhere. It's Help Desk with Joe and Dave.
Yep.
And the other,
How did my name get on it? It used to be just Help Desk with Joe.
change things up a little bit.
Nice. I've gotten a step up.
Yeah. And actually, it works with Amazon Echo.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I showed Cena last week. I said the trigger word, and I don't want to
Yeah.
say because it'll kick off everybody's echoes.
Yeah.
But I said the trigger word. I said play Help Desk with Joe and Dave, and it came back and said now playing latest episode of Help Desk with Joe and Dave, and
Bam, there
you
we
start
were.
hearing us.
Nice. So, Joe, you're doing amazing stuff. And again, if you don't know about it, check out A&M Digital Technologies. If you have any questions or need anything, check in with Joe and Cena because it's wonderful to have this resource here locally. And you've really amped up what we've done here with the internet radio station. So when we talked about it probably 6 months ago, it was just it was just an idea, and then you start saying, "Hey, here's what you can do. Here's what you can do," and you did all the background work for it, and here we are. Now we're got an app. We're throwing out podcasts. We're playing music. You've got us going Spotify and everywhere else.
Right. Well, in the Patch Turned Up podcast themselves, we are in the works of waiting for approval with Apple on that. So once we get approved with Apple and approved with Google, look up coming soon the Patch Turned Up podcast, and all the other shows that fall under the Patch umbrella will be under those podcasts as well.
Yeah, and we have some more people lined up, and I'm going to save that. That'll be our own little surprise about who else is coming in to do podcasts and shows. So
perfect.
Exciting stuff here in the next couple weeks. All right.
Sounds great.
Well, let's end it with that, and make sure you stay tuned and you tune in next time for our Help Desk with Joe. And we're always bringing you help and information in the technological world. So, Joe, thank you so much. Another fantastic show. This one ran a little long. Kale was giving me time updates, and he kept saying, hurry up. So 37 minutes worth of podcast. But, hey, that's okay. Great stuff you're sharing here and great stuff you're doing. All right, so we'll wrap up our podcast part, and then we'll wrap up the Facebook part, and then we'll call it a day, and we'll be back next Wednesday.
Sounds great. And the podcast drops every Friday.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.